guy I know once ran into his own next-door neighbor of 6 years at the hardware store. He panicked completely, turned to his wife, and introduced the man as, and I quote, this guy. 6 years, living right next to each other. And here's the thing. You have absolutely been that guy. You run into someone, their face lights up, you clearly know them, you have met 3 or 4 times, and their name is just gone. A total blank right at the exact moment you need it. So in the next few minutes, I am going to show you why your brain hands you the face instantly, but hides the name every single time, why this is not a flaw in your memory at all, and a few simple tricks that genuinely make it stop. Let me start by taking away the belief that has probably been quietly making you feel bad about yourself for years. Almost everyone who does this thinks the same thing. I am just bad with names. Or worse, they take it as proof of something uglier, that they did not care enough, were not really listening, are a little self-absorbed. You forget someone's name and a tiny voice pipes up and says, see, you are rude. You never pay attention to people. I want to shut that voice up right now because it is simply wrong. Forgetting names is not a personal failing, and it is not a sign of a weak or lazy memory. It happens to nearly everyone, including people with genuinely world-class memories, the kind who can memorize a shuffled deck of cards in minutes and still blank on the name of the person they met 10 seconds ago. It happens for a very specific reason. Faces and names are stored in completely different ways in your brain, and a name, it turns out, is very close to the single hardest kind of information a human brain is ever asked to hold on to. You're not bad at this. You are running perfectly normal software that was simply never built for the job. So here's the plan, because this one is oddly satisfying once it clicks into place. I am going to walk you through 3 things, in order. First, why your brain is an absolute superpower when it comes to faces. Second, why names are almost cruelly, uniquely hard, which is the real heart of the whole thing. And third, the simple tricks that actually work, all of which are going to make total sense to you the moment you understand the real problem. Let's start with the part your brain is genuinely amazing at. The first thing to understand is that your brain is a dedicated, world-class face machine. Recognizing faces is one of the oldest and most important jobs your brain has. So important that it comes with a specific region largely devoted to it. A little patch that switches on powerfully the instant a face appears. Think about why that matters so much. For almost all of human history, instantly knowing whether the person walking toward you was family, a friend, or a genuine threat was a life or death calculation. And you had to make it in a fraction of a second. So your brain got extremely, almost absurdly good at faces. You can recognize thousands of them. You can spot a friend from behind, in bad light from across a crowded street, decades after you last saw them, with a completely new haircut and 20 extra years on their face, and still just instantly know it is them. That is genuinely staggering processing power. And the wild part is it runs completely automatically in the background without you ever trying. It is so built in that newborn babies, only a few days old, already prefer to look at face-like patterns over random ones. You did not learn to care about faces. You showed up caring about faces. I still find this genuinely amazing when I sit with it. You will forget a phone number you dialed yesterday, forget where you set down your keys, forget the entire plot of a movie you watched last month, but a face you saw exactly once at a party 3 years ago can surface in a heartbeat when you pass that person on the street. Your brain quietly deprioritizes almost everything else in order to keep this one system running at full power. It decided a very long time ago that faces matter more than nearly anything, and it has never once changed its mind. Here's the example that shows how deep it goes. You can run into someone you have not seen since high school, cannot recall their name, cannot remember a single conversation you ever had with them, and yet, the very instant you see their face, you feel that unmistakable click of recognition. The face system delivers, even when every other part of your memory comes up completely empty. And here is the warning, or really the proof, of just how specialized this all is. There is a real condition called face blindness, where people have perfectly good vision and a perfectly good memory, but cannot recognize faces at all, sometimes not even their own family members in a photo, because that one dedicated system is not working right. The fact that faces can break on their own, cleanly separate from everything else, tells you just how much your brain treats them as their own special protected category. So if your face system is this ridiculously powerful, why on earth does the name attached to that face vanish into thin air? That is where it gets genuinely interesting. The second thing, and the real key to this entire mystery, is that a name is almost completely meaningless to your brain. And your brain is built to remember meaning. Let me show you this with a puzzle that psychologists actually use, and it is a beautiful one. Imagine you meet two men. You are told the first man is a baker. You are told the second man's last name is Baker. Same word, the exact same sound. Now, a while later, which one are you more likely to remember? It is honestly not close. People remember the baker, the profession, far more easily than they remember Mr. Baker, the name. And that seems to make no sense at all. Until you see why. When you hear that a man is a baker, your brain instantly lights up an entire web of meaning. Bread, warm ovens, the smell of a bakery, flour dusted on an apron, maybe an actual baker, you know. The word hooks straight into 100 things you already have stored. But when baker is just a last name, it connects to nothing. It is an arbitrary label, a random sound assigned to a person, pointing to no meaning whatsoever. It is an island with no bridges to anywhere. And that right there is the whole problem in a single image. Your memory is fundamentally an association machine. It holds on to things by connecting them to other things you already know. The more hooks a piece of information has, the more easily it sticks. A name, by its very nature, is almost completely hookless. Someone says their name is Michael, and unless you deliberately do something with it, that sound has nowhere to attach itself. So it floats around for a few seconds in your short-term memory and then quietly evaporates, while the person's face, their expressions, whether you like them, what they were wearing, all of that rich, meaningful, hook-covered information sails straight into long-term storage without any effort at all. Now here's a detail that proves the point from the other direction. Think about the names you never forget. A celebrity you love, a character from a show you are obsessed with, the name of someone you once had a huge crush on. Those names stick like glue, and it is not because they are somehow easier words. It is because they got attached to a mountain of meaning and emotion and repetition. You heard them over and over, wrapped in feelings and stories and context. You gave those names 1,000 hooks without even trying. Which quietly tells you the real fix long before we get there. A name is only impossible while it stays meaningless. Here's the example you have personally lived 100 times. The maddening tip of the tongue moment. You know their name. You can feel it right there, almost surfacing. You might even know it starts with a J, or that it has 2 syllables, or that it rhymes with something. That infuriating almost is your brain proving this entire idea in real time. The information is faintly in there, but with so few hooks attached, you cannot get a firm enough grip to haul it all the way up to the surface. I once stood in front of a coworker I had known for months, felt his name hovering an inch out of reach, and had to physically walk away and pretend I forgot something, only for the name to casually pop into my head 40 minutes later while I was making tea. My brain found it eventually. It just could not find it on demand. And here's the warning, the part most people never realize. A huge amount of the time, you did not actually forget the name at all. You never truly learned it in the first place. In the moment you were introduced, you were nervous, or already thinking about what you were going to say next, or quietly worrying about your own name. And the other person's name went in one ear and drifted straight out the other, never encoded, never given a single hook. You cannot lose something you never really caught to begin with, which luckily points us straight at the fixes. The third thing is the good news. Because you now understand exactly why this happens, the tricks that fix it are going to feel almost obvious. The first and most important one is simply to actually pay attention at the moment of introduction. I know that sounds far too basic to count, but remember, most of the time you never encoded the name at all. So when someone tells you their name, stop, and for 1 single second, make it the only thing in your head. Not your reply, not your nerves, not the impression you're trying to make, just their name. That tiny sliver of real focus is the entire difference between the name getting a chance to stick and it never even landing. Most name forgetting is really just name never hearing, and this one move quietly fixes the biggest chunk of the problem. The second trick is to use the name right away, out loud, while it is still fresh in the air. Repeat it back the very second you hear it. Nice to meet you, Sarah? Then try to genuinely work it into the conversation once or twice more before you part ways. So Sarah, how do you know the host? Every single time you actively pull that name back up and say it, you are strengthening the memory and carving the first few hooks into that blank little island. Pulling a memory up is exactly what makes it stronger. So a name you have actually said 3 times is dramatically stickier than one you only passively heard once. The third trick is the real secret weapon, and it goes straight at the root of the whole problem. Give the name some meaning. Build it a hook on purpose. Since names fail precisely because they connect to nothing, your one job is to connect it to something, anything. When you meet a Michael, take a quick second to link him to another Michael you already know, or picture something that sounds like his name, or grab a detail about him and tie it to the sound. It can be silly. It can be a terrible pun. It can be an absurd little cartoon image in your head. The sillier and more vivid you make it, the better it actually sticks, because you have just handed that lonely, meaningless label a bridge to the rest of your memory. You are doing on purpose, in one deliberate second, the exact thing your brain already does automatically for every word that already means something. The first time I really committed to this, I met a woman named Rose at a work event. And instead of nodding along and instantly forgetting, I pictured a single bright red rose tucked behind her ear. Absurd. A little embarrassing to even admit out loud. But 2 weeks later, across a crowded room, her name came to me instantly, Rose and all. While I stood there, completely blanking on the names of 3 people I had known far longer. That is the entire trick in one small story. The people I had known for months were still hookless islands. Rose had a flower. And here's the warning that ties all 3 of these together. Notice that not a single one of them is just try harder to have a better memory. Your memory is already extraordinary. It is simply pointed at meaning, not at arbitrary labels. Every trick that works does the very same thing. It gives the name enough attention that it actually gets encoded, or it gives the name a hook so your association machine can finally grab hold of it. You are not repairing a broken memory. You are just finally feeding it the kind of thing it was built to keep. So let me pull this whole thing together. Because once you really see it, that little jolt of panic when a name disappears loses all of its sting. You learn that your brain is a dedicated, ancient, world-class machine for faces, so good that it can recognize thousands of them instantly and automatically. Because for your ancestors, knowing a face fast genuinely meant survival. You learn that names are the exact opposite kind of information. Arbitrary sounds carrying no built-in meaning. Hookless little islands. And that your memory, being an association machine at its core, struggles to hold on to anything it cannot connect to something it already knows. That is the entire reason the face arrives instantly while the name goes missing. And you learn that so much of what feels like forgetting is really just never having encoded the name in the first place, because you were somewhere else in your own head during the introduction. And here's the part I really want you to keep, because it should genuinely lift a weight off you. Forgetting someone's name is not rude, it is not a character flaw, and it is absolutely not proof that you did not care about the person. It is the completely predictable side effect of owning a brain that is spectacular at meaning and faces, and that was simply never designed to store random labels. The next time it happens, you do not have to spiral into, I am so bad with people. You can just calmly think, right, names are hookless, my brain is doing exactly what brains do, and let it go. And better yet, you now have the actual tools. Pay real attention for 1 second. Say the name out loud. Give it a silly little hook. Do those 3 things, and you will remember names better than almost everyone around you. Not because your memory somehow got stronger, but because you finally started using it the way it actually works. And there is something quietly lovely hiding in all of this, if you look for it. The reason names slip away is the very same reason faces stay. Your brain is relentlessly loyal to meaning and to people, to the face of someone who mattered, to the feeling of a moment, to anything at all that connects to something else. It just gently lets go of the empty little labels we stack on top of everything. So the next time a name vanishes on you, try to remember what that actually means. It means your brain is busy holding on to the parts that genuinely count. So tell me down in the comments, because I am honestly curious just how bad the worst version of this gets. What is the single most awkward name blank you have ever had? Did you ever have to introduce someone as this guy, or fake your way through an entire conversation quietly, praying they would not ask you to introduce them to anyone? Name and shame yourself below. We are all completely in this together, and I promise you are not the only one who has smiled and said, hey, you, to a close friend. Honestly, the more mortifying the story, the better, because every single one of us has one, and there is something weirdly comforting about seeing them all lined up in the comments. And if you want more of these small, freeing little truths about the strange machine running your whole life, go watch the one on why you cannot remember being a baby, because it is the exact same memory system quietly deciding what is worth keeping and what is not. I'll see you over there.